She just vanished, New Year's Day, gone without a trace. The Google searches were absolutely chilling. He was planning every single detail. I don't believe there was one spot on those belongings that wasn't covered in blood. He thought he was smart enough to get away with it. He wasn't even close. The truth always leaves a trace. You just have to know where to look. How many people Google how to dispose of a body and think they won't get caught? He literally wrote himself a murder manual. A shocking disappearance becomes a race against time, and the killer's digital footprint holds the key to justice. Every search is a clue. Every purchase leaves a trail. Every lie creates a pattern. In these cases, it's up to investigators to piece together the evidence and prove murder even without a body. He Googled every step of her murder, bought the tools on camera, threw her remains in dumpsters across Massachusetts, all while wearing a contorted ankle monitor. This is the story of the stupidest killer who ever lived, and the digital confession he couldn't delete. Cohasset, Massachusetts, January 1st, 2023. Ana Walsh, 39-year-old mother of 3, vanishes without a trace. New Year's Eve, 2022. Ana and Brian Walsh host dinner with their friend Jem Mutlu. They toast to 2023. Ana seems happy. Jem leaves at 1:30 a.m. It's the last time he sees her alive.
Meal for us, and we hugged and celebrated and toasted, and just what you do over New Year's, and there was a lot of looking forward to the new year.
Hours later, Brian is Googling how to dispose of her body. Brian's story: Ana woke him around 4 a.m., work emergency, had to fly to DC immediately. She packed, called an Uber, left by 7 a.m. He kissed her goodbye, went back to sleep. Every word was a lie. January 3rd, Ana doesn't show up for work, doesn't call, doesn't answer her phone. By January 4th, her employer contacts police. Brian files a missing person report too, playing the concerned husband. Ana hasn't been in touch for a few days, just calling everyone, "I'm sure everything's fine." Everything is not fine. Cohasset Police Department responds. Officers arrive at the Walsh home on Chief Justice Cushing Way. Brian answers the door. He seems cooperative, calm even. He tells officers the same story. Ana left early on January 1st. She took a rideshare to Logan Airport to catch a flight to Washington because of a work emergency. Inside the home, everything appears normal, maybe too normal, too clean. Police begin their investigation. Ana Walsh, self-made from war-torn Serbia, $1.8 million in real estate, none in Brian's name, planning to leave him and take the kids. Brian Walsh, convicted fraudster, on house arrest, unemployed, facing prison. He knew she was leaving. He knew he'd lose everything. Investigators immediately start verifying Brian's story. He said Ana took an Uber or Lyft to Logan Airport around 6 or 7 a.m. on January 1st. They check the records. Police subsequently did surveillance and checked. There was not a Uber or any kind of Lyft that had picked her up on January 1st. No pickup at their address that morning, no Uber, no Lyft, no taxi company has any record either. They pull Ana's cell phone data. In fact, in the course of the investigation, it was determined that her cell phone pinged in the area of the house, which is located at Chief Justice Cushing Way. Her phone pinged on the 1st and the 2nd, which is after the time that he had said she had left. Ana's phone stayed near the Cohasset home on January 1st and 2nd. It was stationary, not moving toward any airport. Then at 3:14 a.m. on January 2nd, the phone went dark, turned off completely. It never came back on. They check with the airlines. Ana had a flight booked for January 3rd, but she had not rebooked or changed it. She never checked in, she never boarded. Ana Walsh never left that house. Right away, we knew something was very wrong. The story Brian told us wasn't matching the evidence, not even close. Brian R. Walsh seemed, on the surface, to be a successful man, educated, from a wealthy family. His father, Dr. Thomas Walsh, was a prominent neurosurgeon at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Brian and Ana appeared to be the perfect couple. Beautiful home, 3 young sons. She had a thriving career. He stayed home with the kids. But beneath that surface was something very different. In 2021, Brian Walsh pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges. The crime was elaborate, calculated. While living in South Korea, Brian convinced a wealthy friend to let him sell valuable artwork, including 2 Andy Warhol paintings worth nearly $250,000. Brian hired forgers to make copies, then he sold the real paintings and the fakes to multiple buyers around the world. The FBI tracked sales to buyers in Paris, New York, through Christie's auction house on eBay. Brian had sold the same paintings repeatedly. He was sentenced to house arrest, wearing an ankle monitor, awaiting his final sentencing. As of January 1, 2023, Brian Walsh was still on house arrest at his Cohasset home. This becomes crucial. Brian's ankle monitor tracked when he left home, not where he went. He had approved windows for errands. Every unauthorized trip was logged. Investigators pulled the ankle monitor data. On January 1st, the day Ana disappeared, the monitor shows Brian leaving the house. He told police he went to Shaw's grocery store, then to his mother's house in Swampscott. He said he got lost because he didn't have his phone. On January 2nd, the monitor shows another departure. Brian told police he only left once that day to take his oldest son to get a chocolate shake. The data shows something very different. Investigators checked surveillance footage from the stores Brian claimed to visit on January 1st. He said he went to Whole Foods and CVS to run errands for his mother. Police subsequently did surveillance and checked. There was no surveillance or indication that he went to Whole Foods, no CVS. He indicated he purchased some items. There's no receipts for him having purchased anything. Brian Walsh never went to those stores. He was somewhere else, doing something else. And he lied about it. January 2nd, sometime after 4 p.m. Surveillance footage captures Brian Walsh at a Home Depot in Rockland, Massachusetts. He's wearing a black surgical mask and blue surgical gloves. He pushes a massive cart through the store, loading it with items, multiple mops, buckets, tape, a tarp, a Tyvek suit with boot covers, goggles, baking soda, cleaning agents, a hacksaw, a hatchet, cutting shears. Surveillance checked during the investigation indicated that the defendant, in fact, on January 2nd, sometime after 4 o'clock, went to the Home Depot. He's on surveillance at that time, purchasing about $450 worth of cleaning supplies. He pays in cash, $450. These aren't supplies you buy to clean your kitchen. These are supplies you buy to clean up a murder scene and dispose of a body. Over the next few days, surveillance captures him at Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Lowe's. He buys towels, bath mats, squeegees, trash cans, everything you'd need to clean up evidence and dispose of it. While Ana was building her successful career, Brian was on house arrest, unemployed, a convicted felon awaiting sentencing. Ana was the breadwinner, the provider. Investigators discover Ana's real estate portfolio is extensive. She owned property in Lynn, Massachusetts, a row house in Baltimore, a home in Washington, D.C. Total estimated value, $1.8 million. Brian's name doesn't appear on any of these properties. In the 5 years before she vanished, Ana had sold at least 4 properties for more than $2.7 million. There's something else. Ana had a life insurance policy, $2.7 million. Brian Walsh is the sole beneficiary. If Ana was dead, Brian would inherit everything. If they divorced, Brian would lose everything. Anna's job in Washington meant she was away from home during the week. Brian stayed in Cohasset with their 3 young sons. I knew they were struggling because she's been far away for so long. I knew she had had many fights about like, when are we finally gonna come to DC? When am I going to be with my kids? That was her priority. Investigators learn that Ana was having an affair with a man in Washington, D.C. She'd spent Thanksgiving with him in Ireland, Christmas Eve in D.C. She was making plans to leave Brian, plans to move the children to Washington. During a dinner with a friend, Ana became upset. She believed Brian was going to be incarcerated due to his federal case. She was prepared to leave him and take the children. Ana was moving on with her life without Brian. And Brian knew it. December 27, 2022, 5 days before Ana vanished. Someone using the Walsh family's devices searches online. What's the best state to divorce for a man? Brian Walsh was already planning for life without Ana. But he wasn't planning on divorce. Investigators checked his son's iPad. What they found was a murder manual in real time. January 1st, 4:55 a.m., 2 hours before he claims Ana left. How long before a body starts to smell, how to stop a body from decomposing, how to embalm a body, 10 ways to dispose of a dead body, how long for someone to be missing to inherit, can you throw away body parts. By lunch, dismemberment, and the best ways to dispose of a body. That afternoon, how to clean blood from wooden floor. January 2nd, hacksaw best tool to dismember. January 3rd, can you be charged with murder without a body? He even Googled how to dismember a 115-pound woman. Ana weighed 115 pounds. 3 days, dozens of searches, a digital murder manual written in real time. I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and I've never seen that level of detail. It was 3 days' worth of not just Google searches, but incriminating and damning Google searches. She just kept going, and every search was worse than the one before. You could hear a pin drop as the prosecutor went from Google search to Google search to Google search. These aren't the searches of an innocent person wondering what happened to their spouse. These are the searches of a murderer covering his tracks. This is a digital confession. The basement search warrant executes on January 8th. Crime scene technicians spray luminol in the dark. The basement explodes in blue-white light. Blood on the floor, splattered on walls, smeared in arcs where someone tried to wipe it clean, a broken knife still stained. Testing confirms Ana's blood. This is where she died. Brian's cell phone tells the story. January 3rd, 4:48 p.m., Abington apartment complex. Surveillance captures him heaving heavy trash bags into a dumpster. 5:10 p.m., another complex in Brockton, Morey bags, so heavy he has to swing them over the lip. January 5th, 9:30 a.m., his mother's apartment building in Swampscott. He circles to the southeast corner where the dumpster sits for 5 minutes. He doesn't go inside to see her. He's disposing of his wife. Investigators race to secure the dumpsters in Abington and Brockton. They're too late. The trash has already been picked up, taken to transfer facilities, some of it already headed for incineration. But they do find dumpsters near Brian's mother's apartment in Swampscott. They secure them before they're emptied. On January 9th, investigators search a trash transfer facility in Peabody, Massachusetts. They spend hours in hazmat suits, combing through mountains of garbage with police K-9 units. They find 10 trash bags. Inside those bags. Investigating 10 trash bags. Inside the trash bags, many of these items contained stains consistent with blood. In fact, a lot. Among the items secured were towels, slippers, tape, Tyvek suit, gloves, cleaning agents, carpet, rugs, hunter boots described as what Ana was last seen wearing, a hacksaw, a hatchet, cutting shears, a piece of a necklace consistent with one Ana had been seen wearing in photos. Ana's COVID-19 vaccination card in her name. The hunter boots were described as what Ana was last seen in. A portion of the rug was heavily stained with red-brown stains. The substance was consistent with blood, also having baking soda on it. Many items are soaked in blood, Ana's blood. Some have been treated with baking soda, an attempt to mask the smell of decomposition. The State Crime Lab performs testing on certain selected items that were recovered from those trash bags. It was determined bloodborne found on them. But some trash bags, the ones from the Abington and Brockton dumpsters, were already gone, incinerated. If Ana's body was in those bags, it's gone forever. January 8th, 7 days after Ana vanished. Brian Walsh walks out in handcuffs, smiling, an arrogant smirk, like this is just another con he'll talk his way out of. He walks into the courtroom like he owns it. He's about to learn otherwise. The charge, misleading police in the course of an investigation. The defendant is charged under the intimidation statute, that being misleading the police in the course of investigation. The investigation was into the missing person of Ana Walsh. It's not murder, not yet. But investigators know this is just the beginning. At the Quincy District Court, prosecutor Lynn Beland lays out Brian's lies. She goes through his story piece by piece and tears it apart. Brian said Ana took an Uber or Lyft. Records show no rideshare pickup. Brian said he went to Whole Foods and CVS. Surveillance shows he never went to those stores. Brian said he only left the house on January 2nd to get ice cream. Surveillance shows he went to Home Depot and bought $450 worth of cleaning supplies. Brian Walsh pleads not guilty. Bail is set at $500,000. He can't post it. He's held at the Norfolk County House of Corrections. The community held vigils, lit candles, asked questions. But mostly, they worried about Ana's 3 sons, ages 6, 4, and 2, who'd lost everything. Now you've got 3 boys under 6 years old dealing with what could be an extreme trauma. You don't know what they heard that night, what they saw that night. God knows what they're in for. Behind the stay-at-home dad persona was a career con artist. Brian hadn't just scammed art dealers, he had systematically dismantled his own family. He stole $800,000 from his father, who eventually disinherited him with a final, crushing sentence in his will. I bequeath Brian my best wishes, but nothing else. Friends described him as a diagnosed sociopath with a history of explosive violence, including an attempt to kill guards with a heavy object in China. To Cohasset, he was a neighbor. To those who knew him best, he was a predator. In 2014, he threatened to kill her. 9 years later, he did. January 17, 2023, 16 days after Ana vanished. The Norfolk County District Attorney makes an announcement. Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey has announced that a murder warrant has been issued in the death of Ana Walsh, the Cohasset mother who has been missing since on or about New Year's Day. Brian Walsh is charged with murder, even though Ana's body has never been found. Prosecutors say they have enough evidence to prove he killed his wife. At this arraignment, the world hears the full scope of the evidence for the first time. Prosecutor Lynn Beland presents it all: the Google searches, the Home Depot purchases, the surveillance footage, the blood in the basement, the trash bags containing Ana's belongings. The defendant's behavior before that time, at approximately 6:30 in the morning on January 1st, his behavior before that time when he says Ana left the house shows that he was planning and premeditating and had the intent to kill her. The courtroom is silent. You could hear a pin drop. When the prosecutor finishes, there's no question in anyone's mind. Brian Walsh murdered his wife. Brian's attorney argues that all the prosecution has is circumstantial evidence. No body, no eyewitnesses, no confession. But the evidence is overwhelming. This is a very bloody, gruesome scene. The amount of evidence, the purchases, the searches, the blood, the belongings found in trash bags, it's absolutely crushing. Brian Walsh pleads not guilty. This time, there is no bail. He's held at the Norfolk County House of Corrections, awaiting trial. Prosecutors are facing the ultimate challenge, proving murder without a body. But Brian Walsh didn't just leave a crime scene, he left a digital confession. The blood in the basement proved Ana bled too much to survive. The recovered trash bags held her blood-soaked boots and necklace. And then, there are the searches. He literally Googled a step-by-step manual on how to dismember a woman of her exact weight. In the digital age, you don't need a body when the killer writes the script for you. Juries are sophisticated enough to know that if someone's sitting up, if someone is being charged with murder, they're also capable of disposing of the body. Most criminal cases are made with circumstantial evidence, and it's not unusual for convictions to be had using solely circumstantial evidence. That's not a hurdle as much as people believe it to be, especially with the abundance of circumstantial evidence in this case. December 2025, Brian Walsh will face a jury. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, misleading a police investigation, improper conveyance of a human body. The defense will argue there's no body, no eyewitness, that it's all circumstantial. But the evidence is overwhelming. Brian Walsh had Ivy League degrees, he'd conned art dealers worldwide, stolen from his own father. He thought he was untouchable. But he Googled his crimes on his son's iPad, bought murder tools on camera, wore an ankle monitor that logged every trip, used his cell phone at every dumpster. He didn't just leave evidence, he documented it in 4K. The smartest con artist, the dumbest killer. Ana and Brian's 3 sons have lost both parents, their mother is dead, their father is in prison, charged with her murder. The boys' names have been kept private, their faces have not been shown, they deserve privacy, protection. Just as a mom, she's just so attentive and loving and fun, playful. She has 3 boys, so they play a lot, and they had a lot of fun together, and she was just very present with them. Ana's mother lives in Serbia. She spoke to reporters, saying Ana texted her just 1 week before she vanished, asking her mom to come to the US the very next day. Her mother was not able to make that quick trip. She never got another chance to see her daughter. Ana Walsh was the definition of the American dream, a self-made powerhouse who rose from housekeeping to real estate royalty. She was building a future for her 3 sons, unaware that the man she married was plotting her end. Brian Walsh thought he could erase her. He thought he could clean the floors, burn the bags, and walk away with a $2.7 million payout. But the truth always leaves a trace. Through the digital trail he was too arrogant to hide. Ana got the last word. Her body may be gone, but her story, and the evidence she left behind, ensured her killer would never be free again. 3 boys grew up without their mother, without their father. Ana Walsh came to America with nothing, built everything, and lost it to the man who promised to love her. But even buried in trash bags across Massachusetts, even dismembered beyond recognition, even without a body to bury, the truth found her. 4:55 a.m., how long before a body starts to smell? That single search sealed his fate. The truth always leaves a trace.